Good day, my name is Franco Ferrari, and today I'm going to explain to you how to read a tape measure. For today's demonstration purposes, I'll be using a Stanley 25-foot tape measure. This tape measure is divided into 25 1-foot equal portions. Each 1-foot portion is then further divided into 12 equally divided 1-inch portions, giving you 12 inches, which equals 1 foot. Each inch is further divided into 16ths. Focusing between the numbers 2 and 3 inches, you'll notice that there is always one long tick mark. I'm going to transcribe that same mark onto the chalkboard. This mark is half. Referring back to our tape measure, between a half there is another tick mark here and here. Transcribing that onto the chalkboard, these two measurements are quarters. This would be 1/4, 2 quarters, which is equivalent to a half, and 3/4. Referring back to our tape measure, between a quarter and the 2-inch mark is another tick mark, which would be an 1/8. Transcribing our 1/8 back onto our chalkboard, our first 1/8 would be 1/8, 2/8, which is a quarter, 3/8, 4/8, which is reduced to a half, 5/8, 6/8, which is reduced to 3/4, and 7/8. Referring back to our tape measure, we have our halves, our quarters, our 1/8, and half of an 1/8 would be a 16th. Transcribing the smallest tick marks onto the chalkboard, this number would be 1/16, 2/16, which is an 1/8, 3/16, 4/16, which is a quarter, 5/16, 6/16, which is reduced to 3/8, 7/16, 8/16, which is reduced to a half, 9/16, 10/16, which is reduced to 5/8, 11/16, 12/16, which is reduced to 3/4, 13/16, 14/16, which is reduced to 7/8, and lastly 15/16. Let's take what we just learned and put it into some practical application. Let's say we wanted to measure a diameter of a piston, which is called a piston bore. Located here we have our 4 inches. The tallest tick mark would be 4.5 inches, followed by the next tallest tick mark, which would be quarters, followed by our next tallest tick mark, which would be an 1/8. We move along and we count our 1/8s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The measurement of this piston diameter is 4 5/8. Another practical example would be to measure the outside diameter of the exhaust pipe. Measuring across the diameter, we have our 2 inches plus our half. It's not a half, it lines up with a quarter. So the measurement would be 2 1/4. And that's how you successfully measure with a tape measure.